Well, there is a ton going on over at Sony surrounding Spider-Man and a giant shuffling of all kinds of resources, personnel, which will definitely impact the future of the franchise, spin-offs, and, if rumors are to be believed, alternate versions of the web-slinger. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about all this stuff that's going on with Spider-Man and why it appears Sony's not giving up yet. Well, if many of you have been paying attention, you know Sony's universe of Spider-Man characters has been quite a mess. Now, the Venom franchise fared, well, okay, even though each movie had diminishing returns. But across the board, the rest of the spin-offs, Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven, progressively did worse and were received by audiences abysmally. Now, in case you didn't know, the executive who oversaw all of these projects, Palak Patel, is leaving the studio. So the Spider-Man franchise at Sony Pictures is definitely going to get some new leadership, and this could ultimately be a good thing. Kind of expected when you fail this hard, somebody's going to get fired. These are resume-generating events, so I'm not surprised at all that we're going to get some new leadership over at Sony, and hopefully whoever moves into this position will have a better understanding of the wall crawler. Now, what's more interesting is what Sony has planned for the future. After the bomb that was Kraven the Hunter, it's pretty clear Sony moving forward is probably going to just ultimately give up on their villain-led Marvel movies. And for right now, are going to focus on Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and their Amazon series Spider-Noir. But Spider-Man is probably one of the biggest intellectual properties in the whole world, and it seems like the studio is going to take a new approach to these spin-offs. How it works out, well, I'm still not very sure. Now, to be clear, this comes from My Time to Shine Hello. It's not from anybody official at Sony Pictures or Tom Rothman or anybody of authority. And in recent months, My Time to Shine has missed a couple, so we're taking this with a large grain of salt. Now, according to these reports, future projects are going to revolve around Spider-Man variants. This means we could see movies focused on characters like Spider-Punk, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man 2099, which I kind of would be down for, various versions of Spider-Woman, or even Spider-Gwen. Now, this makes a lot of sense considering Silk was one of those characters they were recently working on, and Spider-Man Noir definitely falls into the category of these multiverse Spider variants. That project has gotten good buzz so far, especially with Nicolas Cage attached, so this might be where they're going. Now, honestly, I kind of view this as good news. It's probably what Sony should have been focused on from the very beginning. It does leave Tom Holland's Peter Parker able to hang out in the MCU and be part of the larger Marvel world, but would also allow Sony to pick up and make some movies that focus on Spider-Man characters without turning Spider-Man villains into something they classically were not. That's one of the things that kind of failed with these projects. And quite honestly, the one project that had the most promise, Madam Web, well, the excitement around that really was those Spider-Women characters, several of which appeared in the project, and I really do think their long-term plans were to give some of them their own spin-offs. Now the big question here becomes Miles Morales, and from what I'm hearing from various sources, none of it confirmed, Marvel Studios already has their eye on that character and will work him into the MCU after Tom Holland has finished his time as the wall crawler. Recently, Holland made it very clear that once he has children, and him and Zendaya just got engaged, he's going to step away from acting for a considerable amount of time. This means his time as Spider-Man, well, the clock is ticking. So Marvel's spinning up some plans for Miles Morales. Well, that does make a lot of sense and probably something Sony is completely down with. Now, as far as these variants go, this might really be the way to go. Distinctively setting up an alternate Spider-Man in an alternate world like Spider-Man 2099 or Spider-Man Noir, well, those are great ways to connect with fans without having to really use a lot of expositional dialogue or explain to the audience this isn't the traditional Spider-Man they've known for so long. Many of us forget. Not everybody reads comics, and this isn't apparent to many people. So when you start introducing variants and alternate versions, well, I think it does make it pretty hard on their general movie-going audience to keep up and understand what's going on. I actually think Sony would be nuts if they didn't give John Mulvaney his own Spider-Ham series. I think that would be an absolute hit. He brought that character to life with a lot of fun in Across the Spider-Verse, and these plans definitely sound better than the villain spin-offs they've been focusing on the last couple of years. With new executive leadership at the top, hopefully execution improves. No matter what characters they decide to use, if the movie's not good, directed well, written well, it's not going to be a good film. And you could even put Peter Parker in a movie that's bad and it's still probably going to flop. Fans have very little faith in Sony at this point, so if they screw this up again, I think they've pushed themselves into a very difficult spot. I always wish everybody success, but given the track record Sony's given us, I think we need to sit back and wait and see how Spider Noir turns out, and that might be the litmus test for success for Sony in the future. How that works out, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, before you take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for all the updates, and make sure you get every notification because we do daily Marvel and DC content and we don't want you to miss any news.